Hello, everybody. A very, very good evening, morning, wherever you are in the world. And there is a noise. So I think I need to do something on my computer. So now, hopefully, we won't be interrupted by any noises again. Hello, everybody. So nice that you're here again for the 17th, I think, episode it is now of the Reiki Revolution Live. It's just great to be here. And if I sound a bit nasal, it's because I am a bit nasal, because I have a bit of a cold, but that's okay. I'm giving myself tons of Reiki, lots of vitamin C, eating garlic, raw garlic, and hopefully this will get better very soon. Better this week than next week, because next week I'm running a Reiki master course in London, and I want to be fit for that. I just love to run live courses. Let's just wait a little bit and see that a few more people are joining us. Normally, it just takes a few minutes until everybody is on board. So I'm just looking at people wherever they are in the world. In Southern California, that's nice. It's getting quite autumnal now in London, so that's a beautiful place to be. London, Kent, various places all over the world and all over the UK. So it's fabulous to have you all here. I'm very excited for various reasons. Let's just start again. I mentioned the master course coming up next week. It's just so nice to be able to do more live courses again after the strange COVID time. And I decided I really, really enjoy that so much that I want to teach more live courses. So my plan is to travel primarily next year, from early next year, but I would already be available this year if there is interest, wherever I'm invited. So if you are somewhere in the world and want to invite me and are able to bring a few people together for a Reiki master course, a Reiki science course, a Reiki 1 or Reiki 2 course, going deeper into the Reiki symbols, into Reiki research, into the Reiki history, the idea of the Reiki revolution and how to make Reiki a lifestyle, anything from a talk to a half or 1 day workshop to a longer whole course over a weekend or even a few more days. I'll be very happy to do that. So yes, if and yeah, not just America. I'm very happy to travel within the UK and indeed Europe as well. And I'm pleased to mention that finally my first book, Reiki Made Easy, published by Hay House, is out now in French. Not that I speak any French, so I would need a translator or people, and I'm sure most people will be very fluent in France, in English language. So if there is some interest, I'm just, I think I'm ready to do this, and I really look forward to that. Just so exciting to connect with so many people all over the world. So I'm slowly starting to plan on this. So if there is interest, if you have a local center, a group, some ideas anywhere in the world, just please get in touch. And then we go from there. I'm also really, really excited about our own new research project, the Reiki survey. So far, what's primarily been tried to evaluate within Reiki is the efficacy of Reiki as a therapy, as a healing modality. And that means that people get a Reiki treatment, and then either they are asked how they about the pain levels before and the pain levels after, and sometimes it is done in slightly larger studies, and so we get a better picture of how and in fact that Reiki reduces pain levels and works very effectively as a complementary therapies in many ways. Some of the research included kind of a more medical research, like blood tests and samples, and they could show that the stress hormones are decreasing. So this is very, very exciting. But what hasn't much been evaluated is the before and after effect of learning Reiki. The life-changing effect that we all know. We go on a Reiki 1 course and afterwards somehow life is different. We've got healing hands and we tend to find that somehow things change and shift. Our perception, our attitude changes, and there is just so much going on. So all this is anecdotal evidence, and I could go through probably thousands of emails and pick out all the comments I got over the years from people. But although this still is a huge body of evidence, it's still very anecdotal. So what we thought we would do is to start a research project, which is just a professional survey, as it's done in many ways now. And we're using SurveyMonkey because they are just a very, very good, efficient, and technically very good platform, and they can anonymize everything. So what we didn't want is that anybody fills in a survey and then has the fear that they're inundated with emails afterwards, depending on how they answer the questions. So everything is completely anonymized, and we just ask a few basic questions, primarily whether people learned Reiki, just to make sure they actually learned Reiki, and then also what kind of Reiki they learned, whether it goes back to Mikao Sui, and then some before and after questions. And I started sending this out on Sunday evening, and I checked last about half an hour ago, and we had over 500 people taking part. So this is proper scientific data. Even for surveys or polls for predictions in the political realm, often there are 400, 500, 600, 800, 1,000 people or so surveyed. So this is a really, really important number of people already. But the idea is to get more people. So if you haven't filled in the survey, please make sure you do. Let me just find this banner. So just go to reikiscienceacademy.com. Either you just go on the homepage, on the top right hand side there is a button that takes you straight to the survey, or you go to the research page, and again there is a button that takes you to the survey, and it takes less than 4 minutes. I think the average is 3 minutes 31 seconds or something like that. So it really is something that you can just do very, very, very quickly. And I would really like to ask you to do it now, whenever you see that. So for anybody watching the replay, it will be on there for a while. But ideally, I want by the end of the week, by next week, and most of it wrapped up so that we can start evaluating things, my English. Anyway, look at the data. And so far, what I saw was just mind-blowing. It really is already exceeding my expectations. And of course, the hope is then if people say, well, there is a very clear before and after, and it really changed my life for the better. And we have these kind of what are these called? Bars, these statistics, these graphics, and we can put it on a website. We can put it on social media. And then people think, oh, wow, so many people, such a high percentage says Reiki changed their lives. They have reduced stress levels. And so then obviously it will stoke more interest in learning Reiki. And this is ultimately what the big goal is of the Reiki revolution, to have more people learn Reiki. That's basically it. That's all. The rest we can leave to Reiki. We work with Reiki. It changes our lives. It changes so many things. And of course, it changes our way how we deal with each other. And this is, I suppose, what really, really needs to change in the world. So it's exciting, and more people are joining tonight. So that's brilliant. Thank you for being here. Just looking at the comments. One lady will do it after the session. Yes, please do. That's great. How do you take part? Very, very simple. Just go to reikiscienceacademy.com and look at and find it. You'll find it there on the homepage. If you have received an invitation, a newsletter or whatever, an email for tonight's YouTube broadcast, then you will also find a link in there. So that's brilliant that you are here. And I would like to just do a few minutes of exercise before we welcome our guest tonight. And last week I was showing the information about the scientific proof that Reiki works on different levels. And the different levels are basically connected with these three main energy centers. The lower tanden, the Hara, in Japanese culture, is connected with our physical existence, physical energy, physical change, physical healing. Then the third eye with our spiritual opening and guidance, and the heart with connection, oneness, love, and the realization that we are all one. So the Hara is basically just below the navel, about 2 fingers below the navel. And in Japanese culture, it's a very, very important energy center. You may have seen images of these sumo wrestlers, and they kind of stand on kind of both feet very strongly. They move down a little bit and bend the knees so that they fully find balance, and they balance on the Hara. It's very interesting because what they need is physical energy, physical strength. And as long as they focus on this, they have so much energy that's very that's very difficult to topple them. So what they try to do is to irritate the person, to make them lose their focus on the Hara so that they lose their strength for a short moment, and this is when they will attack. So this is the kind of, in a way, entry point for physical energy, physical healing, physical change. And at the start of the autumnal season with colds, I don't seem to be the only one having a cold at the moment, going around with lots of strength and energy that we need. I would like to invite you for a few moments to give Reiki to yourself and just place your hands on your lower tanden point, the Hara. It's connected with the power symbol. So if you've learned the power symbol, you can utilize that. You can just draw it, and then just well, you can't really see much through the shirt, but this is basically my belly. So I'm just placing both hands there for a few minutes of Reiki. So when you're ready, just connect to Reiki. And if you wish, just draw the power symbol. And then just place your hands on your Hara, the energy center, which basically represents the lower 3 chakras. So it's not opposite to the chakra system or something different, just really kind of sums up what the lower chakras stand for. Just place your hands there and just give yourself Reiki for physical healing, change, and energy. And then slowly bring your awareness back into the here and now. Take a moment to thank Reiki and open your eyes again. So much of what we do here is meant for inspiration. It's not that basically we do half an hour treatments or so, but it would be amazing to do a half-hour treatment just focusing on this energy center, and maybe another time just focusing on the third eye or focusing on the heart. So hopefully what we do here serves as a bit of inspiration to try things out for yourself. And this is the whole idea also for today's topic here, a bit of inspiration. And it's interesting, it's a bit of a transition from what I had originally planned. When I started the YouTube shows in, when was it? June, I think. My idea was to do something about Reiki every single week. And of course, that's what we do. Solidly focus on Reiki. And a psychic friend of mine said, oh, I can see this running for a really, really long time. And it's interesting that you interview people about different healing modalities and so on. And I thought to myself, different healing modalities? We're doing Reiki. We're not kind of checking other things out or promoting other things. So there has been quite some transition since, because of course I use Reiki, but I also really like homeopathy, and I sometimes see an osteopath, and I do try other complementary and conventional therapies, and I often give myself Reiki before, during, after the treatments, and find that really, really beneficial. So why shouldn't we try to combine things if we feel we want to? I started kind of teaching for the last decade. I was teaching Reiki very much in a very kind of purist way, saying ideally just do a Reiki treatment and look at the results. And I still think that's a wonderful thing to do, and we should do that when it's right. But if you already practice something, if you are a therapist in a different field, then of course Reiki, you may feel inspired adding Reiki to what you do. And this is what we are going to talk about tonight. So I'm very excited to have Reiki Master Paul Dunn here, and I'm going to get him on there now. Oh, wow. Hi, Paul. And you managed to adjust the camera.
Yes. Reiki. I Reiki'd it.
That's marvelous. So brilliant. Thank you so much for being here. When we did a technical test before, there were two black bars on either side of Paul, and I think it was the kind of angle or whatever of the camera. But that's great now, so people can see you even better now. Let me just introduce you quickly. Paul was a keen sportsman in his younger years, and then sought out therapies to learn to help maintain his fitness. Having learned various forms of massage and Eastern treatments, including shiatsu and Tai Chi, he sought something more gentle when caring for his elderly parents in their final years. And it was at this point that he found the Bowen technique, and we'll hear more about that in a moment, and was able to provide pain relief to his parents, and then decided to provide a voluntary service for a London hospital trust. It was here he came across Reiki, which is a hilarious story that you have to share with us in a moment, and embarked on training at the Reiki Academy in London with myself, which was really lovely. And Paul continues to provide voluntary support at a local MS support center, combining Reiki and Bowen in these sessions. Paul is the vice chair of the Bowen Association UK.
UK.
And on the profession-specific board for Bowen, for the CNHC, which is the Complementary and Natural Healthcare Council, which is the body to hold the professional registers. It also holds the register for Reiki practitioners, and it's the highest professional recognition for a complementary therapy that people can have in the UK. And there we go. Very welcome. Great that you're here tonight. I always say tonight, even though for some people it's morning where they see you at the moment, but that's absolutely great. So could I ask you to share how you found your interest in Reiki?
It is a funny story. You had Maureen on a couple of weeks ago as your guest speaker. She works in the same sort of trust. We've never, I think we've been in a room together once, but she works at a different place. Yes, so I was working at this hospital as a volunteer giving Bowen treatment, which I'll explain a little bit later. It's a very gentle therapy, and most of the treatments are done to people in palliative care, and there's a small hospice in the hospital. And one day I was sent up to one of the wards, and you have patient notes, and the patient note said, this man will not speak to anyone, he's depressed, he doesn't want to go home, he's not engaging anymore, and so on and so forth. And I was sent up to give him a Thai foot massage to try and cheer the man up. So I arrive on ward, I bounce on to the ward. I notice his bed number is number 12. So I said, Mr. X? He says, yes, that's me. I said, well, you're in the wrong bed because I got you down as being in bed 13, just to try and create a conversation. To which he quickly started getting quite chippy with me and telling me I got it wrong, and if I wanted to be in the other bed with the other man, that was up to me. And I was thinking, well, that's very strange. So I looked at these notes again, what's happening here? And then I started, and he said, are you going to do the same therapy as the young lady yesterday? And I said, no, I'm the only Bowen therapist in the whole of the trust. So you're going to get a little bit of Bowen work and a little bit of Thai massage. And he said, well, that's disappointing. I see, this isn't how the notes read. This is a guy who's kind of going, and his wife then started joining in, saying, yes, she was very good, the lady who came yesterday. And so I went through about 35 minutes of basically having the mickey taken out of me by this chap in the bed who was saying I wasn't as good as the lady yesterday, and why didn't I do what she was doing, and talking about the car, and when he gets home, what are you going to do, and what are you going to do with his house, and so on and so forth. And I just went down and said to the team leader after the treatment, I said, these notes say this guy's depressed. Who did he see yesterday? And he gave him the name of someone you had trained. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say without her permission. So he gave him the name, and I said, well, that's a load of baloney. I just don't believe this energy work. You know, what is all this about? He said, well, she's getting very good results. So I think I was working on Wednesdays at the time. By Saturday, I was on your course because you just happened to be doing Reiki 1. I came, as I said openly at the Masters training, which I ended up doing with you. I came to prove that it didn't really work and it didn't exist. You know, and I do lots of therapies, and I try to understand why they work, how they're similar to the things I do, and maybe if they don't work, you know. So I did Reiki 2, and then I did the Masters with you, and I've been using Reiki at the hospital up until COVID time, really. I then used Reiki for distance work and was getting some interesting results and reactions. And I now combine it at the Multiple Sclerosis Centre, which is very local, so I can get there now. The hospital work was difficult. Over 4 years, it was a difficult commute. So, yeah, so
yeah. I love the story. It's just so hilarious to basically be so competitive, thinking, oh, that can't really work. What load of rubbish.
and I should say, Torsten, the funny thing is that I was quite... I was the only male who works on those days, and so I would often wind up the other therapists. So there'd be reflexologists and shiatsu people, and I'd say, look, slight dark humour, but if you haven't made their conditions worse, and I'm happy to see them and give them some Bowen work, because I'm sure, and I was doing it as a wind up. I was in the office and I would just try and cheer people. They'd seen someone who was, end of life experience, and I was trying to cheer them up as much as anything. But I got this kind of reputation for sort of saying, if you can't fix them, Bowen will do it, and laugh. And the laugh was on me at the end, because I've ended up being a Reiki master and integrated it with Bowen therapy.
So just tell us a little bit more about what Bowen actually is. I had not heard of that before, so I had no idea what it actually involved. Can you just enlighten us?
You should, when you just said in your run up to this about you see osteopaths and so forth, I mean, why haven't you asked to see a Bowen therapist? I just don't understand that, Torsten. It's a very gentle treatment. I did some very deep work, the trigger points and the almost like a sports massage therapy at the beginning of my training, because my wife had an injury and it wasn't going anywhere. And so I trained in this course I could get on. But it's quite painful. It's quite deep. It was elbows in and thumbs in and this sort of thing. And when my parents were becoming ill, I was trying to find something which would have a similar effect, if not a better effect, in a shorter time, and was gentle. And I happened to be at one of these holistic shows or whatever in London, and this chap was showing Bowen therapy, a guy called Michael Patrick, who's just had an article he's kind of showing around there, where he helped Pat Cash, the tennis player, who they said wouldn't play senior tennis anymore, and he took a treatment off of this chap Michael, and is now back to playing tennis. So very profound. So I wanted this gentle treatment because my parents were in great pain in their sort of last years, and they couldn't bear to be heavily treated. My sister does massage and various other therapies. They just found that touch was too much. So Bowen therapy is a very gentle, I probably won't show too well for your cameras, but it's very gentle moves. You're just almost sliding over the skin and affecting what they found in about year 2000, some nerves which I didn't think humans had, they knew animals had, called CT afferent nerves, which basically are very gentle nerves and respond large and in a very profound way, but they need to be touched gently and they need to then be left alone for a couple of minutes. So generally a Bowen therapist will have you on a couch in your clothing, t-shirts and so forth. We'll do a couple of gentle treatments over parts of the body. Normally we start on the spine, and then we walk out the room for about 2 minutes, and then we come in and we do the next set of moves and go out again. It's very gentle. And people keep trying to say, how does it work? So there's books that are being written. So I just hold, you go on Amazon, there's books, Bowen Unraveled, dissections, and I've attended human dissection training. We're trying to see why it works. And the short answer is, I don't think really anyone really knows. We think it's because of fascia. We know our moves are over ligaments and tendons in certain key areas. We know they're over acupuncture points, but all over the body, but they're gentle. And my belief is very much that it's about the patient and how they want to receive assistance. And so that's why I've come down to thinking we need to use Bowen, because it somehow tells the body you need to start getting in repair, healing mode. The effects can be to change people emotionally. So sometimes you'll see people and they just start crying and they go, I don't know why I'm crying. And you go, no, me neither. It's a gentle touch. Sometimes they'll just get off and say, that bad knee I had is just gone.
Okay, so there are some physical results, definitely, but it also is a physical technique. So it's nothing that would normally be classified as probably an energy healing method. It's more a manipulation, a very gentle manipulation of the physical body with then that triggers something more in the body.
It's very skin kind of movement and it's stretched. So you might take part of a muscle, but it's a very gentle. We often use the phrase in training of things. It's the amount of pressure you could probably put on an eyeball without damaging an eyeball. So it's
okay, all right.
So it's very gentle. However,
How long does it take to train in that? It's just the question in the comments box. How long does the training take?
You can get through to being allowed to practice on the public within about 7 months. The modules we do are focused over a weekend, and then you have to go off practice, write case studies, and the usual sort of protocols for a modality. And there are 7 major modules that you need to get through. So they normally run consecutive months, so 7 to 8 months, and then you'll be qualified. And then there's some advanced stuff which happens, so it's almost like the master work, if you like. There is some advanced techniques that can help. So yeah, very good. And we also know that there's some work that's been done, nothing to do with Bowen per se, but Dr. Helena Lange did some work on finding with mice that she was able to stretch muscles in the body. And you can see her on YouTube. She started in 2016. By stretching the body, the muscles, even gently, it allows certain enzymes to leach out, if you like, and then it does healing work. And it can be anti-inflammatory. Sometimes she has a belief it can be anti-tumor. So what I'm saying is really that what we do is these very gentle stretches and sides of the skin. We activate possibly some of the nerves. We wake up the fascia and do work on it. And that all works. However, a bit like Reiki, it also works at a distance. So we've had people who, and I gave during the COVID, I was still ringing hospital patients and doing a combination of Reiki and Bowen, where you ring them up, you introduce who you are. I know Maureen went through this a little bit a couple of weeks ago. You ring them up, you then have to ring off. You then spend 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes on some people, and then you have to ring them back up. Because if they fall asleep, you have to wake them up to make sure. So you can't leave the phone on, because otherwise they might fall asleep and you've no way of waking them. So you have to be able to wake them up and sort of react. And one chap who I know I explained to you, Torsten, I use a little kind of teddy bear, little cute teddy bear, because he's got all the limbs. So you can focus on Reiki and you can focus on Bowen. So you do these little gentle rolling moves. Yes. And I got to so I was doing Bowen, and then I said to him, I'll do a bit of Bowen, and then we'll do a little bit of Reiki. And he said, thank you. He's an MS patient at the hospital, and MS people get this spasticity, so they can't straighten their legs or they can't bend their legs. The muscles just lock on. So I did work, and his weak side is normally the right side. So I did the right leg, the right arm. And then I did Reiki, and I was aware of the clock, and I like to let people know I'm going to be on the button. So if I say 40 minutes, I actually do then ring at 40. So they're not waiting, and in case any carers coming, they all know when we're going to finish. But I finished a little bit earlier. I suddenly felt that it all went a little bit cool, and I wasn't quite connecting. So I had about 2 minutes or so. So I was just tapping and looking at my bookcase and thinking, I know, you won't mind me saying his first name, I know Simon was asking me about something. I need to find that book so I can quote what I was doing. And I was tapping on the head. When I phoned Simon back up, it's such a true story. I was shocked by it, because he said, were you working on my right leg? And I said, yes, but you know, we've been together 2 years. I know your right side, your weak side. He said, that's fine. He said, the strange thing at the end, though, I was getting this kind of like sort of banging on the head. It was like a vibration around the head. I suddenly thought, oh my goodness, there's no way he would have known I was doing it on this bear. I was tapping the head. And I said to him what I was doing. I said, I'm really sorry. I said, last few minutes I was trying to find that book I was looking for you, and so I could give you the author's name. And I was tapping on the head. He said, it was really quite something. So I don't know. It
does certainly work over a distance, which is amazing, and combined with Reiki. But how do you combine it in your live session? So you at the moment work primarily in a specialist center for multiple sclerosis patients.
Yes.
And do they just get the complementary therapies there, or do they get conventional help in the center as well?
No, the centres, and there are a few around, I think there's about 60 or so around the country, are run as a charity. they use hyperbaric chambers. So this is oxygen chambers. And so they've established around these oxygen chambers because it was hypothesized and to a certain extent proven, but it's case study proving, that it seems to slow the rate of MS if you sit in an oxygen tank 2 or 3 years. So these are like large diving bells. You can get up to 8 people in them. You wear a face mask, oxygen is pumped in under pressure, and you're in there for about an hour and 15 minutes. So these centres are all built up around people on industrial estates creating these charities where the oxygen tanks exist. And they're all run by people who understand deep sea diving and so on and so forth. And of course, they have a couple of rooms generally for treatments. So people like to try physio, but again, it can be a bit heavy for certain MS patients. They all suffer in different ways. And they all like to get treatment in different ways. And the reason I combine is because Bowen would normally be taught to say, never combine it with anything physical. But I found that with Reiki, because it's not that physical, my hands can be off, they can be just very gently laying on. And so what I started to do was to do a Bowen treatment, but taking it very slowly and easy on people with MS. Because some get very strong reactions, some even this light eyeball pressure can feel deep to them. So you have to be very careful and build up over weeks to see how they're reacting and what reaction they get. And when I started using, for the end of the sessions, then I'd put in 20 minutes of Reiki. The effects seemed quite profound because they would end up finishing the session saying, I noticed all the positions you did with Bowen during that Reiki session. There was something happening. It just felt, I could feel a buzzing in the knee, or I could feel my elbows were vibrating and so forth. So much so, and I got one lady who has very bad hand shaking, so both her arms are just continually shaking. But she gets on the couch, I do a couple of the Bowen moves, I give it a space and time, probably only now spend about 10 minutes on the Bowen side, and then I go straight into doing full Reiki for about another 30 minutes or so. And within seconds of me being around her back of her head and top of her head and starting the Reiki, her hands just stop and lay still on the bed. And she gets a massive kick out of that. And I don't know why. She's had some benefits from the Bowen. Her shaking slowed down a few months ago when she started Bowen. I don't know what's happening. We seem to be hitting her at different energy levels, if you like. There's an emotional aspect to it, there's a chemical aspect. All your water stuff and the water science showing how things change. There's some therapists who did that for Bowen in Australia. That's 7 or 8 years ago, where they could show that blood microbes change. So something happened, but the combination is what seems so important now. But I always introduce Reiki. I always say to people, do you understand what it is? I don't believe it's particularly religious. Some people do. Some people think it's very spiritual. I think it's energy. I'm trying to read quantum physics, but I just cannot understand more than about 10 pages and then I'm lost. And if they accept it, it's part of it, because I feel that the work around the chakras, these kind of spinning areas and wheels, are very important to making the Bowen work even better than it would. It engages the person with their body somehow.
So you do it intuitively then differently for everybody. When you feel there should be some more Reiki, then you just add more Reiki. And if you feel you're getting with Bowen where you want to get, then it's
and positional. Yes, and positional, Torsten. So some people I'll only work around the head and the thyroid and the neck, if you like, areas, because I sense that there's something going on. Maybe MS is bringing them down. They're depressed slightly. So any aches and pains could be something to do with the emotional side. So sometimes for those people, I won't move to other chakras. And there are those who quite clearly have an issue, physical issue, and therefore I start working on the body chakras, and balance it quite evenly with anything work I'm doing around the head. So yeah, it'll change each time, and it's intuitive. I mean, your intuitive training that comes in. But it is very intuitive. You suddenly feel like I need to be down by that chakra down here, down by the hips and the pelvis. Something has to be happening there, and so it combines very well with that. And some of the Bowen people, we do training which is aligned for Bowen purposes on cranial sacral work, which again is another gentle work where you almost hold parts of the body just very gently in your grasp. And again, I find that you cannot not do Reiki whilst you're in those positions. Your hands are holding maybe the jaw.
That's what we do as Reiki practitioners. It's just always there, and suddenly it just kind of flows in. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you do any...
strange, sorry if I'm speaking for too long, but there's some strange stuff that happens. One lady, she didn't realize how severely ill she was. I started Reiki, and it made me think. Again, I said I wasn't religious. I do it from a very quantum physics point of view and science. But this lady, I went to give her a treatment. I put my hands to her head, and there was something very strange, very false that came to me. I had to go off and do some other work. I did a little bit of Thai footwork and then came back and restarted. Unfortunately, she didn't know, but she went for a test. She had a brain tumor. And it was very sudden. She about 4 weeks later, we got the news that she wasn't coming again. End of life. I reflect on what happened that day. Something was very strange, and she was a very spirituous lady. She was into spiritual kind of healing. It was an amazing force. So again, I reflect every time I treat a patient. I'm slightly different and how I'm reacting, and I keep learning on different modes, I was even very skeptical, if you don't mind me quickly saying, about distant Reiki and distant Bowen. Yeah. There you go. I don't mind saying it. Until my mother-in-law, who had a pacemaker go wrong within 2 weeks of having a pacemaker fitted, went into hospital to have it taken out, and it was going to be put on the other side. And then we got a phone call about 4 days later, 10 o'clock at night, saying she's got water around the heart. At her age, we don't think she'll make it. My wife was crying, and we finished. And the guy said, we're going to do everything we can, but we don't think she'll make it. And I just said to my wife, I'll stay up. By this time, it's about 12 o'clock. I said, I'm going to sit and do Reiki for about an hour, and we'll see how it goes. We couldn't get in touch the next day. Nobody was answering the switchboard. We got to 5 o'clock, we started ringing in the morning. 7 o'clock, we was ringing reception at the hospital saying, can you somehow get us through to the consultants, to the intensive care unit? We were being chased around. At 10 o'clock, I suddenly said to her, ring your mother's mobile phone. If they've cleared her bags, if something really bad had happened, they'll have the bags somewhere probably in the staff room. And
yes,
we rang the phone, and her mother answered and said, can you ring me back later? I'm having breakfast. Now, that was quite amazing. And my wife looked at me and said, I think the Reiki did this, didn't it? 4 or 5 days later, I can't remember exactly how long, we had a similar phone call. This time it's very late. It's about 11:30. And they said, unfortunately, water's on the heart again and around the lungs. And for a woman her age, you cannot deal with both of those, because you have to deal with one or other. And whilst you're sorting one out, putting a filter and drain on, the other one is getting worse. Mm-hmm. My wife just looked at me and said, you better go out and do some Reiki. This is June last year. So I went out, and I probably spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours, just totally focused, totally trying to use Reiki. Partly as a skeptic, thinking, can this really work? But I did it. And we had the same outcome. We got through the next day. It was probably a bit later. It was about 11 or 12 o'clock. And we actually got through to her mobile, and she answered again. She did sound weak, but then I continued doing Reiki, and I do it quite common now. So on the back, this piece of paper, this little Polaroid thing, is her mum's name, and the Ted gets it every night almost. But she's well, she's living back in her flat, and I've had to change my attitude. And it's just, you always have these doubts about, does anything work? Does Thai massage work? Does this work? Does that? Reiki? But there's something we just don't understand in the world, isn't there? There's something we don't have the right knowledge and science
so true. And we can try as much as we want. There's always something different, surprising. And as you just said, it's really interesting. I actually made a note because I think that's something that we should talk about in the show at some stage as well, or about end of life care. Of course, these miracles happen, as happened with your mother-in-law. But then on the other side, there is, as you say, about the other patient where you felt there was something going on, and then she didn't come anymore. So it doesn't mean that Reiki doesn't work. It just means that it works in different ways. And of course, life does end at some stage, but Reiki can also support us during this time. And that is just a very, very kind of different aspect of Reiki as well. But thank you so much. I just love this conversation. It's really, really amazing, very much from the heart, very down to earth. You used to be a civil servant. So something...
Yes, the senior civil servant, IT director, a total non-believer in anything until my wife had her first issue. And again, I think what's worth saying is it's worth trying all these things and different techniques and complementary therapies. At her age, at the time, she was about 45, and they were saying, well, give it another 5 years, you'll have to give up all your sports, and you probably will need a hip replacement. Well, she plays golf now. She goes to the gym every day. She's out every day doing sport. She's never needed a hip replacement. And between the Reiki and the Bowen, she will never need it, I don't think. So
what you're saying is even senior civil servants can have some kind of transformation.
We don't all have parties, you know, in Downing Street, although I did used to be at Cabinet Office. But no, we don't have those parties. Yeah.
Well, brilliant. Thank you so much. That's absolutely wonderful. Pleasure having you here, Paul. And yeah, it's absolutely great. A lot of people will watch this again and revisit that, and that's absolutely brilliant. I just realized that I didn't even put your name properly in. So Paul Dunn, Reiki Master, Bowen therapist, senior civil servant.
Yeah.
All sorts of other therapies, and that's what I like so much about our conversation is this idea of being a Reiki convert, not really believing in it, and just by doing it, by experiencing it, trying it out with, and I think it's very healthy with an inquisitive mind, not thinking, oh, I believe that energy, everything is energy, so I'm sure energy healing can work. No, we need to understand how it works, what to do with it. We need the results. We need to build our portfolio of outcomes, of experiences, and then it's not belief anymore, it's experience. And this is really what Reiki is all about. So thank you so very, very much for sharing. Please do stay online. I'm going to just say thank you once again. And I'm going to put you in the background now while we all connect for the last kind of 10 minutes or so for our Reiki share. So now I'm going to move this name out there once more. What an exciting conversation. And that's the idea, to just look at life from different angles. Alternative is a strange word. It is like putting it in a strange bracket, as if what we conventionally accept is the only thing there is. The universe is vast. Energy has all sorts of different vibration levels. There is so much about the human body, about life, about nature we don't understand. So who are we to say there's only one way? And I find it fascinating to explore these things and to just explore how Reiki helps, how Reiki helps in connection with other therapies. So if you are practicing something and would like to talk about this as well, and how you combine that maybe with Reiki, or what you learn from Reiki for the other therapy, or vice versa, what you learn from other therapies and you now include in your Reiki treatments. This is really what we want to explore. We want to just see what Reiki can do and how we can be creative with Reiki. Otherwise, the system of Reiki wouldn't be there. Mikao Usui was very, very creative. He tried all sorts of things, different hand positions, realized it works on different levels. Of course, he was very intuitive, very much guided, very connected. And then he came with the symbols to work on different vibrational levels, all that. But all this is a creative way and development in Reiki. So if you want to share something at some stage, that would be absolutely wonderful. I'm just looking at some comments. Yes, there is a lady who comments about aromatherapy and how that leads to Reiki. I know a lot of people who combine all sorts of things. So we will have more different therapists on the show. We'll also have scientists more on the show. Exciting times. And if you can share your experience with Reiki also in a way of completing this survey at some stage, that would be absolutely amazing. If you just want to go to the ReikiScienceAcademy.com and fill in the quick survey. And now let's tap into quantum physics, oneness, connection, whatever we want to call it, and connect to Reiki, then with each other and share Reiki. So we all send Reiki to everybody on this Reiki share right now. And excitingly, with everybody who will see that as a replay, and I get so much feedback that people feel it then very, very strongly as well. And of course, you will receive Reiki from everybody. Tapping into quantum physics and exploring that further, not just from everybody who is live right now, but from everybody joining into this energetic web at any one time. So when you're ready, let's just bring your hands together, or however else you normally connect to Reiki. Just connect. And just feel the connection for a moment. And then set your intention to connect with everybody on this Reiki share. You may want to open your hands and just direct Reiki to everyone who is now entered replay, taking part in this Reiki share. You can also use the connection symbol to deepen the connection. And just lean back. Just let Reiki do the work. Just send Reiki, sharing it with everybody, receiving Reiki directly, and again through everybody else. and just really sense in what's going on. Feel Reiki, your connection with everybody else, and how you're receiving Reiki through everyone else taking part. And then you can bring your hands once more together, thank Reiki, and slowly come back into the here and now, which I find is always a slightly different here and now. When we just come back from this connection to Reiki or from Reiki treatment, we do feel more connected with the universe. It's almost like walking on earth, but being part of something bigger. That's what it feels. And that really is ultimately Reiki as a lifestyle, to feel that we are just connected. We are part of something bigger. There is more to life that we can explore in many, many ways. And the best way to do that is reaching out, sharing, caring, sending love, and connecting with other people. This is how we get the most fulfillment. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you for making this show what it is, for engaging. If you have any comments, if you have any ideas what to do in the future, then by all means, please make sure to send me an email. You can, again, contact me through the website reikiscienceacademy.com, or simply write to Torsten at reikiscienceacademy.com. And please make sure you fill in the survey. And I just can't wait to share the results, which hopefully I'll be able to share in 2 weeks' time with all sorts of graphics and whatever. I need some technical help with that, but I'm sure it's going to work out. And I already saw some preliminary results there, and it's just absolutely mind-blowing. It's actually more intense, extreme, life-changing than I thought in terms of percentages. So it's absolutely wonderful. So again, thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful rest of the day, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are, or whenever you see this replay. And if you want to go through something again, if you want to rewatch it, if you want to take part in the Reiki share again and again, of course, this is why all the shows are there. And now it's a little bit clearer as well. You can see me more clearly again. I sorted out my computer camera since the last time, so apologies, it was a little bit blurred. So see you again next week, where we will be looking at Reiki animal healing and animal communication. And we'll have a guest who is both a Reiki animal healer and animal communicator. So this is going to be really exciting again. So see you next week.